House of Representatives demands refund of 10 billion naira COVID-19 funds. Also on the program,
new situation arising in the management of public assets. There is need to put in new things into that legislation. And I'm happy that the President has confirmed the appointments of the new DG.
We'll talk to the Chairman House of Reps Committee on Public Assets. You're watching the Hello Chambers on TVC News. I am Tijesu Ademorin. The House of Representatives has directed the Federal Ministry of Health to return 10 billion naira for the production of COVID-19 vaccines in 2020 into the Federation account. The Committee on Public Accounts gave the directive as it questions authorities at the ministry over the use of COVID-19 funds. The committee is particularly concerned that the directive for the production of COVID-19 vaccines, for which 10 billion naira was approved and released, was not done and the money not returned to the government coffers. My colleague Joke Adisa reports on the findings and resolutions of this committee probing the COVID-19 funds.
83 agencies comprising ministries and departments of the federal government are to take turns before the House Committee on Public Accounts to render stewardship of their respective COVID-19 intervention funds.
The whole purpose of the hearing, as captured by the motion which the House passed, is to ensure that we are transparent and accountable in the expenditure of the various sums of money running into over 600 billion naira that was released by the federal government of Nigeria to combat the COVID-19 pandemic.
The Federal Ministry of Health is the first to take the stand. Permanent Secretary Kachalom Daju speaks for the ministry. She gives an insight into how the ministry spent its allotted COVID-19 intervention funds.
The contract cost to 1,329,898,613.49.
But the legislators queried the ministry's use of the 53.5 billion naira received as COVID-19 fund, including the 10 billion naira vaccine production fund.
Is it fixed? And if it is fixed, who is collecting the interest rate?
Sum of 10 billion naira released to the Federal Ministry of Health since December 2020, but which had not been used nor returned to the government coffer, be returned to the Federation account within 7 days, and that the ministry should supply evidence of such return.
But trying to tell us now this is what it is, it's going to make things so difficult.
The committee was furious about the inability of the Rural Electrification Agency to submit a memorandum before it or honor its many invitations. After failing to answer to the many invitations of the committee, the Federal Ministry of Trade and Investment is also to pay back its 75 billion naira COVID-19 intervention fund.
Former permanent secretary and the current permanent secretary are affected by this motion to refund the sum of 75 billion naira back to the federal government as COVID-19 intervention fund.
The Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria, FAN, renders an account of its 7.7 billion naira received as COVID-19 fund, but probing questions follow.
Funds were utilized on 8 main items. The first was our furniture grant in the amount of 3.5 billion, 433,301,570 naira.
The immediate question that came to mind is if we are not having a situation of double allocation.
Last November, Haiti reported the outcome of its assessment exercise across member countries in implementing its 2019 standard. In the data, Nigeria got a moderate overall score in implementing the 2019 Haiti standard with 72 points. It also indicates that Nigeria made tangible progress in many new areas of the Haiti standard. But the report also exposed a lack of transparency in the reconstitution of the 5th National Stakeholders Working Group in 2021.
To avoid undue political interference in that process, but rather to make sure that members appointed to such an important body have the capacity, the technical expertise to undertake such an important work.
The National Assembly says it has become more interested in unbundling the processes identified as problems in the extractive industry. One major topic in finding solutions is a proposal to amend the Petroleum Industry Act to enable stronger provisions for clean energy transition. Another plan is to review the 90 Act of 2007.
We will sit back, even when you've gone, to deliberate on the submissions we are going to get and look at our laws vis-a-vis where amendments are needed or where new laws are to be. We will.
Strengthening the governance structure of NAITI, placing more emphasis on crucial disclosure requirements of the EITI, especially as it relates to contract transparency and beneficial ownership, independent funding for NAITI, timely review and action on reports by the National Assembly, among others.
The insights shared by EITI representative today resonates deeply with us, particularly the emphasis on the importance of AIT's reports in our oversight activities.
Nigeria now risks suspension by Haiti if it fails to make significant progress in the next validation exercise in June 2026.
The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, has called for an end to the killings in Plateau State. He condemned the recurring attacks resulting in the killings of many people, including women and children, while others were rendered homeless. The Speaker said it is devastating to read the news about renewed attacks and hostility in communities around Mangu local government area of the state. Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas says he is disturbed by the unfortunate development and he would meet with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on the matter, while the House would take a strong position upon its resumption from the Christmas and New Year break on Tuesday next week. He also disclosed the House would kickstart plans to organize a security summit to find lasting solutions to the security challenges in the north and other parts of the country. The Speaker also called on the various security agencies to take decisive action to arrest the situation on the plateau. He commended the Plateau State government for declaring curfew in Mangu, saying a lot needs to be done to restore sustainable peace in the state.
A former member of the Nigerian Senate who sits at the helm of affairs in Kaduna State is back to his constituency to explore areas of collaboration. Speaker Abbas Tajuddin welcomes his guest, who was accompanied by a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He assures the governor of support in the fight against every form of criminality to avoid duplication of projects. The Speaker assures that members from the state will work with the governor in determining their zonal intervention projects.
Members of Kaduna State have vowed that whatever they are going to do in their constituencies, projects that they want to embark, they will make sure that it receives your blessing. We want to avoid areas since we know resources are very scarce, particularly for Kaduna State at this particular time. We wouldn't want to see projects being duplicated.
The Kaduna State Governor, Ubasani, appreciates the cordial working relationship between and among all members of the 10th House of Representatives. He acknowledges the support of the minority caucus to the leadership, just as he applauds the parliament for giving the needed support to the executive. Ubasani insists no democracy thrives when its arms of government bicker.
2 or 3 of my discussions with His Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he made it clear to me that this House of Reps is the best. Without your support, I don't think things could have been achieved smoothly. And I want to urge you to continue to give him all the support, because here in this country, we cannot run a government if the legislature and the executive are not working closely for the best interest of the people of the country.
The National Assembly is a busy place. As the bastion of democracy, it is a place where bills are presented, motions debated, laws made,
and the yearnings of the people are laid bare. Come with us as we take you through the workings of the National Assembly. We take you through plenary, committee meetings, and probes, all to ensure smooth working of the democratic process.
Thank you for staying with us on the Hallowed Chambers, and my guest today is an honorable member of the House of Representatives representing Shomolu Federal Constituency of Lagos State. He is also the chairman of the House Committee on Public Assets. His name is Honorable Ademorin Kuye. It's good to have you on the program.
Pleasure being with you.
Thank you for joining us on the Hallowed Chambers. So let's start with
compliments of the season too.
Wish you the same. Let's start with the recently concluded summit by your committee on on transforming oversight and legislation on public assets. Tell us, what was the outcome of this summit? What were the challenges raised, and what were the resolutions?
Well, in the wisdom of the leadership of the National Assembly under the able leadership of Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, they felt that there was need for us to have a new committee that is called the Committee on Public Assets.
And so it's a new committee?
Yes, it's a new committee, and the mandates are well spread out. You know, management and disposal of all federal government assets in the country, management and disposal of all federal government assets within and outside the country, and then all forfeited assets of the federal government, wherever they might be, for us to have, there is need for us to have a kind of registry where at one go you can say this is what the federal government owns. Of course, many people have said so many things about how much Nigeria is owing, but nobody can say with certainty what Nigeria owes. So this committee has come in to make sure that we holistically look at all the legislation, harmonize them, to bring out a law that will help in the management and the disposal of federal government investments in infrastructures, in all the assets. So the outcome of our meeting now is that we have discovered that there is need to repeal and reenact the old Murphy Act. The Murphy Act is the Ministry of Finance Incorporated Act, which the last one we had was the 1959 Act. So we felt that with new needs, new situation arising in the management of public assets, there is need to put in new things into that legislation. And I'm happy that the president has confirmed the appointments of the new DG, as Dr. Armstrong Takang, who is the DG of that institution. And I know that with our collaboration with them, we'll do a lot for the
So
country.
what separates your committee from the existing Committee of Public Accounts? Is it not sort of a duplication of functions?
No, not at all, not at all. Public account has to do with expenditure of MDAs, you know, looking at whether they are properly spent. Ours is to look at assets, physical, movable, immovable, and all other assets like that.
But why does the sale of public assets seem to lack transparency so far in the history of the nation?
It can be attributed to lack of harmonization of the law. There is no existing law governing the management and the sale of the assets. Every MDA is just doing it the way they like. And that's why we said, let's empower, let's strengthen a particular agency that will be in charge of all of this. And we're equally going to work with the SGF on this too. Because from where I come, in Lagos State, I remember that when we were going to have the sharing of assets during the creation of the LCD Act of the existing local government, it was the office of the SSG then in the state that handled the distribution of assets. So the office of the SGF needs to come into this too, to ensure that all the MDAs are monitored in the management and disposal of their assets.
Okay. And how do you plan to deal with cases that involve litigation and other hindrances that may hinder, your oversight functions as regarding recovery of public assets?
Now, there is a mandate that resides with the Attorney General of the Federation that deals with recovery of assets of governments. But when those assets are recovered, is it now within the purview of the mandate of the Attorney General to dispose of those assets? No. So there is now a specific agency, which is MOFI, that will handle all those assets. The moment they are recovered, some of those looted funds outside the country are taken into NSIA, though, for the building of infrastructure, because there is always an agreement, condition attached to the release of those looted funds, and they go into NSIA. That's the Nigerian Sovereign Wealth Fund. And then they are structured into building infrastructure. For example, the Lagos-Ibadan Express Road, it is part of the looted fund that was pumped into reconstructing or rehabilitating it. The second Niger Bridge, it is the looted fund that was used by NSI to fund it. So many other projects like that.
Let's move on to other matters now regarding especially security, which is a present challenge that we face currently in the nation, especially within the FCT. What is actually going on? Because I understand that lawmakers have several times, engaged some of these heads of security agencies and service chiefs, invited several times, and, sometimes there are some talks. What are these talks all about? And we see increased budgeting for security, yet it is yet to abate. What is going on?
Truth be told, for me, there is need for state policing.
Okay.
Now, Nigeria is structured like the American democracy. And most democracies throughout the world ensure that especially where there is federal system of governments, there must be state police. And I believe that until and when we have state police, that's when we are very serious about addressing the security situation of this country. Look at it this way. Just imagine a situation where a federal police, somebody that grew up, did his primary school in Zamfara, did his secondary school in Zamfara, went to probably the police college in Kaduna, and then the next thing he finds himself, the next place he finds himself is in Somolu local government. And then a federal police is now addressing the issue of husband fight wife. And then one tenant C fight tenant B in a tenement building. A federal police officer is not trained to handle such matters.
But a lot of people believe that, or why people are yet to fully accept this model of, curbing this method of insecurity, is that they believe it might be taken advantage of by, the who calls the shots in the state. How do they curb, this kind of challenge if this is eventually adopted?
Okay, so in the states, we have state high courts. The governors have not taken over there. People are getting justice. Nobody is talking about that. Why are we always looking at the negative side of matters? Until you try, until you face a challenge, address it, you won't know the corrections to make. It's all about it. Look, for me, if the National Assembly can just be bold enough to take the challenge thrown to us by Mr. President, because Mr. President, for me, is a leader who wants physical federalism in all its true form. And he has said that in many fora, even in his campaign. And he has thrown the challenge at the National Assembly that if critical stakeholders come together and agree to state police, so what we just need to do is amend the section that deals with the issue of police, which is section 214, I think, of the Constitution, that says, okay, there shall be a state police for Nigeria and all of that. Just amend it, take it out, and then have state police. It's as simple as that. In fact, for me, as a lawyer, I feel that that section contradicts Section 2 of the Constitution that guarantees that Nigeria shall be a federation consisting of states. You see, when the president was governor of Lagos State, because, people like us in our 30s who were made to work with him, he made me a council chairman in my 30s. And, when he came with the idea of having LASMA, the state traffic officers, the Federal Road Safety Corps and all of them, they were challenged. They thought he was going to take their jobs. Some said he wanted to use them as dogs. This model has now been copied all over the states. Go to Kaduna, find state traffic officers there. Because the truth of the matter is this: how many traffic matters can Federal Road Safety handle? Can they come into my street in Shomolu? Can they come to Oja, the marketplace, to come and handle the traffic there? So until we take up this challenge and look at it, go into it, and then we begin to find solutions.
But you agree with me that this would look very good on paper, but there's also the issue of inadequate funding, which was raised during the budget defense sessions that was just concluded before the budget was being passed. How would they create more funding for an extra, outfit for security when already the ones in place are suffering inadequate funding?
The National Assembly, as far as I know, is working in tandem with the federal government to ensure that they create alternative avenue for revenue generation. And that's the reason why you have a committee like mine, the public assets. Because, for example, when I was acting as chairman of ad hoc committee on public assets, I went to some places and I saw some abandoned assets, lying fallow, moribund industries, and all of that. By the time you convert all of this into money, the federal government will generate more money. And I can tell you, with all sense of modesty, that states are getting more revenue now from FARC, from federal allocation. Local governments are getting more revenue now. And in order to make development get to the grassroots, more money is going to the local governments. I just pray that our governors will respect the laws, the Constitution, and ensure that that money that are released for the local government gets to them. If we do that, the management of security becomes easier, so that the federal government can concentrate more on those things that are... Look, there are so many things we have to remove from the exclusive legislative list. We have started in the 9th Assembly. We'll continue in the 10th Assembly, because there is need for true federalism. And that's the solution.
All right, we understand that, yes, that security is the responsibility of government, the primary responsibility of government. But what would you advise citizens to do in this kind of situation that, the whole situation has turned almost upside down and everybody is, looking over their shoulders and sleeping with one eye closed? How would you say citizens should handle this situation and, ensure they keep safe?
I must agree with you that this situation is becoming very frightening. However, there is the citizen responsibility. Somebody comes to your neighborhood overnight, stays, the next day is there. Somebody comes to park vehicle inside your estate and leaves the vehicle there 1, 2, 3 days, and you don't report to security men around, then you are condoning. So we need to be alert too, to our environment, to our surroundings. And people need to take security as something that concerns everybody. It's not the work of the Nigerian army, it's the work of the Nigerian police. No, it's not so. It is a work, it's a responsibility of everybody. And the state, of course, the state are trying their best. I mean, so many of them, you go to Lagos State, you can imagine the number of vehicles that they have supported the Nigerian police with. And the same thing they are doing to Nigerian army and all of that, you know. So many states are doing that. Because for investments to come, for the safety of those investments, there must be security. That's the major one that everybody must invest on.
All right, a quick one before I let you go. As a member of the 10th Assembly, how has it been so far? We understand that we are still on break, but when you resume, how has it been so far? And also the adoption of the legislative agenda that has already been proposed by the House of Reps. Take us through that.
Yes, we're on break, but I must confess that even now, as I leave this place, I'm going for a committee meeting. That's a public account committee that is investigating the issue of the COVID fund released to MDAs. Just about 2 days ago, the committee on upstream that I equally belong to, petroleum upstream, we had a meeting with NAITI to look at the work plan for the year and all of that. And I want to assure you that this 10th Assembly will continue to work efficiently and effectively for Nigerians to make sure that everybody gets the needed dividends.
That is all on our program this week. Do remember you can watch a repeat broadcast at 7 a.m. on Sunday, and you can also see this episode again on TVC News YouTube channel. Do not forget to subscribe, like, and share. Thank you for watching. I am Tijesu Adeoye. See you next time.